Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Off the Shelf. This is a program sponsored by Sisters in Crime Atlanta chapter, hosted by our own Dawn Gepfer, where she interviews an author, talks about the author's path to writing and her most recent books, and in an effort to get books off the shelf and into the hands of readers. So, Dawn, take it away.
Thank you, Lance, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. Real quick, sorry, Lance, are we recording?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. You'll have to edit that out, Linda. Um, uh, Thank you so much for spending your Saturday morning with us today. As Lance said, I am Dawn Gepfer. I am the host of Sisters in Crime Atlanta's Off the Shelf, and I am very excited to have our guest author here with us today. She is the prolific author of four series that she has somehow managed to write in just a very short period of time. I believe we're talking around 6 years. She has produced almost 30 or more full-length novels and several novellas. And she is Anne Shillolo. She is a Canadian author, as I said, of four series, and she lives with her husband, and she has a rambunctious young morkie named Tiger. And I just found out that a morkie is a Maltese and a Yorkie, which sounds absolutely adorable. So, Anne, thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from Canada.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited to talk to you.
Thank you. And we're very excited to have you here. Linda Foster, who is also here with us today in the audience, she participates in our monthly Murder by the Book, which is a gathering by Zoom. Everyone is invited, where we talk about books that we have read and how we liked them. And she has so many times mentioned you. So I know she's one of your
That's
readers
amazing.
and she's a big fan. So she was instrumental in getting me to muster the courage to reach out to you and ask you to join us
Well,
for an off the shelf. So again, thanks for being here.
thank you. And thank you, Linda.
Well,
All right, so we always start off, or I should say this year, we've started a new thing where when we get started with Off the Shelf, we have our authors step into our interrogation room. And this is where we are going to ask our author, Anne Shillolo, several questions to get to know her better. And Anne, are you ready?
I think I'm ready. Yes.
All right. So, when you're writing, do you prefer a computer or are you a pen and paper writer?
Well, I do use a computer. Um, I have to say, when I start, sometimes I'll take a really big piece of paper and just draw boxes and put information all over it. Um, as I sort of think about the plot and what characters might appear in the book. But I I don't really even look at it that much going forward. I'm very much a writer who just sits down and writes the story from the start to the finish. Um, so I do use the computer, but I thought I'd also mention I really, really use dictation a lot too. I started that about 3 years ago because I was having some pretty bad vision problems, all caused by myself. So my day would look like, oh, get up and, maybe check social media on a device and then sit in front of my laptop for a long time. And then to relax, I would read a book on an iPad or so it was no wonder really. So all my own fault, but it wasn't pleasant. So I started dictation. And I had tried it a bit before, like maybe 10 years previous when I was teaching. And I broke my arm about a week before my report cards were due. And I thought, oh, this is panic time for a teacher, like big time panic. And dictation wasn't nearly as good as it is now, but I did use it then. And then once I was having this vision problem, I just found the software I use, which is Scrivener. You can put it on multiple things and your projects stay synced up with each other. So I could then just go and sit on the couch and look out the window or whatever, and dictate. So that's been a huge, huge help for me. And now my eyes are all good again, but I still really like dictation.
Well, I do want to ask you about your eyes because I think that probably so many of us are in a similar
Yeah.
situation where as time goes on and technology advances, we are more and more finding
Yes.
ourselves relying on digital devices. How do
Mhm.
you correct something like that? How did that get better?
Um, do you mean my habits? Sort of how I got
No. What
my
did you
eyes?
have to do to get it better so that
Um, yeah, I had to really limit my time on screens.
okay.
Um, and also, I mean, this is out there. It's not like original, but it is still very good advice. So, if I'm the most intensive screen time for me is during the editing or proofreading process. And also because I really love every aspect of writing. So I could easily sit for hours and hours and edit and make little changes and proofread stuff. But I'll actually set a timer, so no more than 15 minutes. And then to look away, get up, do something, come back. So
Mhm.
not so much, I would say, this year, but for the previous 2 years, I was really strict with myself
Mhm.
about that. I would just on my watch or on the computer set that 15 or 20 minutes, and then literally like look away from it.
Wow, well, that's encouraging, honestly, to hear that there are some habits that we can change if we find ourselves in that
Oh, for
situation.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow. So I'm glad things are better. All right. So back to the interrogation. Name three things on your author bucket list.
Oh my goodness. These are probably going to sound really Canadian, um, a bit. So
Okay.
this really is a thing on my bucket list. And I have to say, I thought of it, but I also have had readers write to me and say this as well. And I'd really like to get serious about trying to have TV adaptations made. So in Canada, there are two, well, probably more than two, but two good mystery series. One is called Cardinal, and those are mystery books by Giles Blunt. And the other one is more famous. It's called Murdoch Mysteries. So
Oh,
the
love
author's
him.
Maureen Jennings.
Mhm.
And those are Murdoch Mysteries is really a long running series and still incredibly popular. So those are sort of inspiring. And I'm just sort of feeling my way and trying to decide how to approach that. But that's probably the most serious of my bucket list items. Also, another Canadian answer. I've been really inspired by Nova Scotia author Rachel Reed and the huge success of her Game Changers books. So, not my genre. So, heated rivalry is a huge phenomenon right now around the world. And her original publishing contract was ebooks only, and she just sort of lives in Nova Scotia with her family. And her books and the subsequent TV series, huge, huge success, as I'm sure everyone knows. And then, okay, this is the most Canadian of all. So our national radio is called CBC, and there is an interviewer, Tom Power, who I've been a fan of for a long, long time, and he has a interview show every day, and it's called Q. And I would love to be interviewed by Tom Power.
Well, okay. I definitely love the TV adaptions. I mean that I'm like, go for it, figure it out. But also the radio. I feel like that could be I feel like you that's doable. Like reach out and
Oh,
say, I mean,
I
you
know.
know.
I don't know. So it's his guests are people who are, they've reached, they're prominent and well known and internationally. So who knows what the future will bring? But Tom, if you ever see this, you can call me
Yes.
anytime.
I love that. And this is going to be available. This recording is going to be available on our YouTube channel. We also
Wow.
post it on our website and our Facebook page. So there will be a way to capture it and send it to him. And also, of course,
Wow.
put it on your social
Wow.
media.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm giving you a challenge for I'm going to circle back and see if you
Okay.
how
Okay.
it worked out. Okay, so in thinking about your reading habits, do you what format do you prefer to read in ebook, paperback, or hardcover? And I guess now I should add to this question, audiobook, you know.
So, yes. So that's actually my answer. And it's for the same reason that we talked about a few minutes ago, that for me, reading after dinner for a couple of hours on paper or an ebook was not a good thing. And so I started to make the switch quite a few years ago now. And it might have even been during COVID, where I used to go to the library literally every Saturday. That was part of my routine. And then I couldn't go to the library because it was closed. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to try audiobooks. And I'm surprised that I like them because I've always really been read to. So I didn't like being read to at school or as a child, or just any form of people reading something aloud to me. Going to a presentation where they read through all the PowerPoints, I'm like, oh no, don't do that. So anyway, once I figured out that I could slightly increase the speed of the narrator. And I don't increase it a lot. Like, I've met people who say, oh, yeah, I read everything at double time. But I don't. I just maybe 1.2 or 1.3. And then I just am totally mesmerized, and I can easily, read through books at my own speed. And so always audio now, 100% audio.
And also for me, one of the draws to audio is the fact that you can be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize
Yes.
that can also distract you from what you're listening to, but it's just seems to be a way to get your love of a story as
Right.
while you're being productive in some other way.
Well,
So
and
For
you can
sure.
also drive while you're listening to audio.
yes,
Yep.
yes. When you have those long commutes and
I like
like,
listening to podcasts in the car too. I have
yeah.
quite a few, like just about being an indie author. And so they're entertaining because I've been listening to them for a while now. And so you're familiar with the hosts and sometimes even the guests. So the conversation's super entertaining, as well as you can get some really good ideas and advice.
Mhm.
So, yeah, for sure.
So
Do you
you
have
are
a
in,
favorite podcast?
yeah, I was just gonna ask.
Oh, oh, yes, I do. I have quite a few favorites. I do like James Blatch, and he's had a couple of different, it's, I think, just self-publishing formula again now. So self-publishing formula, and it's him and Cecilia Mecca do that one. I also absolutely love the Spa Girls, who are four authors from New Zealand, and I listen to that every week. And the other one that's really not, it doesn't feature authors all the time. It's called FBI Retired Case Files. And the interviewer is Jerry Williams, who's a retired FBI agent. And honestly, it is fantastic. So all of her guests are retired agents, and they're talking about cases, sometimes from a long time ago, like they're not current in the news. It's not a current events type of interview. But it just the insights and the personalities, and as well as the details of the cases. I rarely miss that podcast. It's really excellent.
Excuse me. And you are an independent author, correct?
I am, and I actually think it's really fundamental to why I'm a published author at all. That um, and I sort of did like many years ago. I sort of started. I had a young adult novel, and I literally read all the advice, and I went through the process of trying to get an agent and a publisher for the book. I came really close. This publisher asked to see the full version of the book. I was so excited. And then after a few months, they wrote back and said, "Oh, we're changing our focus. We're not doing these kinds of books anymore." And I'm like, okay, fine, that's it. I'm done. And literally, I didn't write anything else for, over 10 years, like no books. And the most insight I got into that was a couple of years ago, my high school, which was in Windsor, Ontario, had its 100th anniversary of being a school. And so I went, and lots of my friends from that time went. And a teacher who had taught me creative writing, and I hadn't been in touch with, but he was supposed to be attending, and he wasn't there.
Mm.
So I asked the organizer, the teacher and his wife who were organizing, also from that era, if I could get in touch with him, and they said yes, they would give him my email address. Anyway, he got in touch, and we exchanged a couple of really amazing emails. And he said to me, "Oh, what you described sounds like the key thing for you is audience." And so, because of choosing then the indie path, I could put my books out there and try to find that audience. And I think if I had waited and waited as a mystery writer, crime fiction, and tried to get that independent publisher, or sorry, traditional publishing contract, it probably wouldn't have happened. And if it had, it would have taken a really long time. And I wouldn't have had that sense of, okay, I wrote this story. Now I can share it. Now people can read it. They can contact me. They can tell me if they liked it, or they can point out corrections or whatever. I think if I hadn't had that sense of audience, like my teacher suggested, that I might not even have written anything at all. I would have, retired and started gardening or playing music or doing something else. But because I found indie publishing and I was able to set my own publishing schedule, I could publish the books I wanted, try to get better at my genre, and then get that feedback from readers. That totally made that for me.
Hmm. Well, obviously, it's been successful for you because, as we stated when we first started, you have, 30-ish books that you have published, like that in a very short amount of time. And we could segue out of the interrogation room and start talking about that a
Oh,
little
sure.
bit.
Okay.
Because it is fascinating. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to come back to these questions that I have
That's
for
okay.
you, but I just think we're at a point where that this might be a good conversation instead of trying to circle back to it later. So let's talk about the fact that you. Here's what I know, and I missed this in my intro because I got distracted wanting to know if we were recording, and then I lost my train of thought. So I apologize. But you are a retired teacher. And you've only been retired since 2019. And that's when you started writing. And so, say from 2020
Yeah.
to mid 2026, you have really been putting out a lot of books. So let's go. Let's talk about that. What was the jumping
Um,
off point for you?
um, it's sort of hard for me to talk a lot about process or inspiration, but I certainly remember sort of thinking, well, I've always wanted to write, um, and I wonder if I would like it or be sticking to it. And I had started to listen to those writing podcasts, And I actually probably forgot to mention the best one of all, which is Joanna Penn, and so Creative Pen podcast. I was listening to those because Joanna has been doing that podcast for so long. I have this incredible library of podcasts to listen to. And people would say things like, oh, there's one, an interview of, and I might have been maybe the Spa Girls talking to Dale Meyer. And the title of the podcast was How Dale Meyer Writes 8,000 Words Before Breakfast. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So my questions for myself were, would I like writing? Would I like it enough to write every day? Not because, it was a rule and someone said that I had to, but would I actually want to get up and write a novel, a part of a novel every day? And then that podcast made me think, well, if I could sit down and write 1,000 words in a day, that sort of seemed reasonable. And then I hear about this author who's writing 8,000 words. And I thought, well, maybe there's a number in the middle there that I could reach. And so out of all of that, I think one of the main keys is that I really do enjoy writing every day. And so, if I'm doing like a couple of thousand words or whatever a day in between doing other stuff, I really do have a life too. Then, oh my gosh, that adds up. And so the first couple of series that I wrote were shorter books, like maybe 50,000 to 60,000 words. And so, if you're writing every day and you're really into it, like those words add up very quickly. And also, this part I can't explain why, other than maybe my background. So I've always liked to write. I guess I'm sort of ashamed that the first thing I ever got a prize for, the only thing I ever got a prize for, was a book review. It wasn't even creative writing, it was a review of Pippi Longstocking, and I think I was in grade 4. So I really have always liked to write, and I wrote as part of my jobs. So I worked for a community newspaper, a weekly, for 10 years before I started teaching. As a teacher, you write all the time. So I really do. I've always written, but not in the novel format. And so the hard thing for me was structure. So I won a contest quite a while ago, and it was to have the historical fiction author Barbara Kyle review one of your manuscripts. Oh my gosh. So it was terrible. Like she was very polite, but she pointed out that it was, it wasn't good. It wasn't a story. It wasn't whatever. So that really got me thinking, because I read constantly and I've always read constantly and mostly mysteries. And that I think, I thought would help me. So I'm like, for heaven's sakes, like I'm reading all the time really well structured books by people who are very famous and they're at the top of their game, and none of this is sinking in? Apparently not. And so what changed for me was realizing that I had, for me, a little more to learn from watching TV. And so I was still always watching TV. Almost every day I watched like part of a mystery series and get into some of the really long ones like The Bill from England or Blue Heelers from Australia that go for season after season. Death in Paradise for sure, which is Robert Thorogood. So for me, paying a little bit more attention to that and understanding how a mystery structure works and why those shows are so fun to watch. The scene changes and why scene changes happen. Excuse me. That sort of got me into it. And also, I'm just going to go get some water. I'll be right back.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Hi, everybody. Hi, Todd. Thanks for joining us.
Please, will you ask which her first book was? Because I'm not sure.
What, Linda?
Please will you ask which her first book was published? Because I'm not.
Okay, I'm showing it was Poodle versus the Assassin.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right,
Is that one you've read?
got that, yeah. I've read the prequel as well, the superhero.
Oh, yeah, that's on here too. Okay, how are you, Anne? You okay?
I'm fine, just a tickle in my throat.
Me too.
Um,
I've had to mute myself to cough. I don't like that. You know, like I'm just like, oh, I don't like it when I'm trying to do something and I got to cough. Okay, so I sympathize. Okay, so so you self-educated is what I'm hearing. And um
very, very much so. And just sort of being able to, um, I did sort of have a unique background in that, like, I studied English at university and taught it for, 20 years. And I don't think that doesn't really make you a writer. You have to still go and write the books and work at learning your craft. But for me, and where you started with your question about how frequently I can finish a book, it's writing every day. And it's also the fact that I self edit my books, start at the beginning, right to the end, and then just go over it once or twice myself, have the computer read it back to me, which is very helpful. But I didn't have to build in the time for like a developmental edit or a proofreader, or those schedules are incredibly complicated if you want to write more than one book a year. And so I was just sort of fortunate that I was able to write in sequence, write in a linear fashion, suited me. It's also efficient. I didn't have to build in a production schedule that involved other professionals. I have a fantastic small group of beta readers. So my sister, my husband, my friend, a couple of friends. And so they look at the book, and I have quite a large ARC team. So they are super fantastic. So I send that book out just a couple of weeks before the publication date. And I just get just literally dozens of emails back with corrections and proofreading stuff, sometimes continuity things. So at the same time, like, it's a huge, huge task for me to finish a book and polish it. But that scheduling, the timing is my own. I don't have to wait for people. And so I can just say, okay, well, I'm going to finish this book and I'm going to publish it on this date, and then it's going to happen. Also, I was impressed with authors who I'd heard interviewed, and I learned about the concept of rapid releasing books, so releasing a book a month. So I thought, okay, well, I better try that too. And so with the first little series and then the Poodle series, Cottage Country Cozy Mysteries, I really did. I think I stockpiled about 5 books. And then I started in April 2020 and released one a month for 10 months.
Ah.
And then meanwhile, I was writing the next series.
Okay.
So I still had to finish the one series. And then I'd always wanted to write police fiction, crime fiction. And so I started that. So, and they're a lot
Okay.
longer, so they take a bit longer.
All right, so this now this makes a little bit more sense to me. So you didn't just start writing when you retired. You had been writing and you had
No,
no.
no,
No?
no.
Okay.
No, I mean, when I say stockpiled, I mean, I wrote them in um, sort of September, October, November, December of 2019. And then January, February, March of 2020. So by then I had 5 books because I wrote them all right then. I wrote one a month.
Well, it is amazing. And I know the fellow authors that are watching right now are probably wanting to know, like, well, how do you do it? And you have 4 series. How do you keep everything straight? And I want to just go back because I had mentioned that I had organized your books in sequentially by year, but also then by series. So in looking at your year, in 2020, you published 9 books and the 2 different series. So there was the Murder in Season series. There were 3 books from there. Is
Yes.
that the ones you started with? Was that your
Yes.
first? Okay. Okay. So Linda Foster, correcting what I said before, her Murder in Season Frozen Fear was your first?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then you started the Cottage Country Cozy Series, which is
Yes.
also known as the Poodle, as the Poodle versus series.
Pretty much. Pretty
Yeah.
much. I don't know. Sometimes I think I was too clever for my own good, but I thought the titles were humorous. So
Yeah.
like Poodle versus the Assassin or Poodle versus the Mob, Poodle versus the Spy. I just thought, I don't know. I still think they're funny.
And you have a very clever poodle, obviously, who's able
I
to
did.
solve these crimes. And
Yeah.
who is the, tell us about the inspiration for this amazing poodle.
Well, his name was Rocco, and he's since passed away from old age. But he was inspiring because he was very smart and very funny, and so many. I would say at least 90% of the scenes that involved the dog in that series were actually like real life. Like he actually did those things. Like he was a real able to jump, so he could jump onto a windowsill and then jump onto a kitchen counter and like eat stuff, or he just was. You really, really had to keep an eye on him. And I actually had to put up a big exercise pen in the house that he had to stay in when I was out because because he was such a jumper,
Mhm.
he could really just get into all kinds of
Mhm.
mischief.
So, so that answers one of my interrogation questions, which was, is there is there a character in your book that is inspired from real life? And there's probably others, but I think Rocco
Rocco,
is
for
pretty
sure.
special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So so you started writing, and as I mentioned, in 2020, 9 books, 2 series. 2021, you continued the Poodle versus or the Cottage Country Cozy series, and you had one more Murder in Season, and then you started a new series, the Port
Yeah.
Alma series.
I did. And with that one, it's interesting to think of like readership and audience. And I think the the Cottage Country Mysteries with the pat and the humor, they were really successful during those COVID years. And I think it was the kind of story that people could just escape to and be entertained by. Then, when I started writing crime fiction, there is an indie author from Britain called Simon McCleave, who's had tremendous success, well deserved. He's a fantastic, fantastic mystery writer. He did this thing where he left his full length book one as free for 6 or 8 months. And I thought, oh, that's something I haven't tried before. And that completely changed things for me. And I know in the audience, if there are readers and writers, people will know that there's a huge difference of opinion on that. Like, should you ever have a book for free? And, but hearing Simon McCleave interviewed and then trying that myself, it made just an incredible difference in readership for me. So the first book, Goodbye Port Alma, that's now been downloaded well over 100,000 times. And so then, of course, people read it. And so it has several thousand reviews. And so for me, the idea of having that one full-length book, and I left it free for a year, approximately a year, so I could run promotions to it, and just all kinds of regular things that people would do to spread the word that, okay, here's a new crime fiction series, and here's a full-length 85,000 word novel with these characters, and you might like it. And it really, it just changed things going forward for me. And so I did continue that series for like 9 or 10 books before moving on to the spinoff.
Yeah. So to your point, the Port Alma then has a spinoff, the Elk Ridge Murder Mysteries. And so that's where we get the four different series. So let's first off, why did you decide to have a spinoff? Like what was happening I'm imagining something was happening in the story itself that you were being pulled in this direction of Elk to go in the Elk Ridge direction.
Well, I think it's partly like a streak of ADHD. Like I just was looking sort of for a bit of a change. And there were a lot of books, and they're very popular now still. And I at least every week or two, I'll still get a reader getting in touch with me asking me if there were going to be more. So people really got attached to those characters, and I did too, but I really just wanted a bit of a change. And Inspector Hilary Casgrain, she is a character in one of the Port Alma books, and she is not likable. She's a really nasty person. And I actually did have someone write me to say, why in the world would you then want to write a series about this person? But to me, starting out from that point, having her leave her comfort zone, and there's for various reasons, and move to a small town, not a big city, in the West as opposed to central Canada, it allowed me to do a number of things that I hadn't been able to try before. So, like the fish out of water trope. So, she's going to a new place where she doesn't know anybody. She finds out her arch enemy is already working there. Everything is new to her. And also, because she started out with these character flaws, it allowed me to explore her more as a character and to have a character arc for her. And it's not necessary for mysteries or crime fiction. So the famous example that people use is Janet Ivanovich's Stephanie Plum. So Stephanie and those characters, they don't experience a huge amount of change over the course of the series, nor does anyone want to. So everyone loves them the way they are. And there's something very satisfying as a reader returning to a series that you really like and just finding all those same characters, the same settings. But I thought, well, I'd like to try something different myself as a writer. And so that for me, starting the new series in a new town with a whole new cast of characters, it also gave me just other things to think about as an author. So I started after book one intentionally. And a lot of what I do is not intentional at all. So I feel this is like a big step forward for me that I can actually do this. But I would pick one of the secondary characters to have as a secondary focus within the plot. So I think it just it makes the book satisfying for the readers as well, because they learn maybe a bit more about a character that they've been interested in. And it doesn't detract from the main plot, because I have to say the books are really, really plot driven, as well as, I hope, having characters that people like. So, yeah.
So Linda Foster had put a comment in the chat, and she said it's a wonderful series, and that she becomes a great character. So what I was thinking as you were explaining was that it could have been the drive to get to know her a little bit better that had you, like say, oh,
Mhm.
let me do it, as well as the desire to do something different, which I totally get, and also to explore a little bit differently. So I'm curious. I'm like, is this the teacher in you that likes to challenge yourself into doing different things? Because that's what I'm hearing a lot as you're talking, is you're veering off and you're trying something new and you're you know seriously, it sounds like with this Elk Ridge, that was a challenge, 100% a challenge.
Well, it was for sure. Um, I think it's almost like something in my character that craves like new input or new things or new activities. Having said that, being a teacher is a wonderful opportunity for people that have that as part of their personality because every year you get a new class. A man who was a mentor to me told me that every 6 or 7 years he completely changed what he was teaching. So he would go from teaching English to teaching science, or not to mention, I love the age group that I taught, which was senior public school. I don't know what it might be called where you are, but it's basically grade 7 and grade 8.
Hmm.
So our whole school was grade 7 and grade
Hmm.
8. And so those young adults are so funny and so interesting and literally surprises and humor every day. And so it was a very satisfying career for me because of that. But then, and yeah, like even it extends to technology. I'm super interested in technology, and that does come into the books. I try not to make it too much of a thing because I know it's not for everybody. But sort of DC Holly Towns in the Port Alma books, she's really into home. She's very anxious. She has a lot of anxiety for her because of her past, and so she's really into home security. So I could put in like home security stuff or computer stuff, and then just little things like at the station in Elk Ridge, where they just sort of hack together a way to record their interviews when they don't have a proper recording system, and just little things like that that you can put in that maybe as a bit of humor, and also it's interesting because like stuff works, so I'm not making fake, like I never write about weapons because I don't know anything about them. So it's not, for any reason other than that, I don't want to have things in my books that I would run the risk of not having correct. So
Hmm.
technology to a point I'm okay with, but I don't have weapons and I don't talk a lot about like the vehicles or the radios or how certain things like that work in a police station because I really don't have firsthand knowledge of it. So for me, I'm just like looking for that line through the story, how to
Hmm.
make that go and have the twists and turns. And for me, it's just like I'm in the story. So not a plotter at all, 100% pantser. I'm just in the story thinking, oh, what could happen next? And
Hmm.
how could I make that happen? And then answering those questions for myself and the readers.
And doing it very well and very quickly, which is again something I'm still fascinated with. So let's talk a little bit about how having four series, are they all active or have any of them like been wrapped up and like, okay, we're done with this?
I think that was just sort of relating back to other things that we've chatted about. It does really help that they're sequential. So the only active series is Elk Ridge.
Mm.
And I'm already sort of thinking about when that series might draw to a close because I have another new idea that I'm super excited about. I've never written about a real life location. And
Mhm.
so I really want to do a new series set in Toronto. And there's a part of Toronto called Liberty Village that is an absolutely fantastic part of history and the present day. So it was an incredible like engine of industry in Toronto. I'm guessing from the 1800s until maybe 1960s, 1970s. So it's like this huge tract of land that's just full of factories and other kinds of industrial buildings. And now it is a brand new community that's a mixture of those buildings being repurposed and new construction. And 9,000 people live there in this like little area. And so I just think it's like the perfect setting for a murder mystery to take place. And also, in terms of history, in addition to the industry, it was the home of the women's prison back in the day. And so there's a lot of history to do with that. And actually, Liberty Street is named that because when they let the women out of prison, that's the street they went onto. So it became known as Liberty Street.
Wow.
So I'm definitely not a historical fiction person, but there might be little bits of history that I could work in somehow.
I like it.
Yeah. So Elk Ridge is ongoing, and the most recent book is Murder at Ragged Falls, and that just came out a couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And then as I go forward, I'm not sure. Now I have to make a decision, another Hilary Casgrain book or a new series. So it's really hard. I actually don't even know what the next one will be right now because I'm sort of balancing them both.
Well, since you are kind of careful to like containerize and say, this is what I'm writing right now, and you're not, Linda Foster says, it's brilliant. More Hillary, please. It's what I'm trying to say is there's any tips or tricks if you were trying to write more than one series, or like, oh, I want to start this one, or I have started this one, but I still need to go back to this one, as try keeping it straight in your head, you know, or on paper or your notes or whatever, so that you don't intermix.
For me, it's pretty straightforward because writing for me is like completely immersive. Like I could get out from the computer, go out and do anything, talk to people, do whatever. And the minute I sit back down to write or dictate, I'm right back into it. So, but I think the way a lot of writers manage that is during the production period, what I would just call the production period. So they've finished writing one book, but they know that for a month it's going to be with an editor and a proofreader before they release it. And so they have that window where they can then start the next book. And I probably was doing that with the overlap between the Cottage Country Cozy Mysteries and the Port Alma Murder Mysteries. I'm pretty sure I was doing that because I had a book or two in the Holly Towns series that I was still proofreading and waiting to release. And I was then starting to write, or sort of the other way around. I had books within the Cottage Country universe that I was proofreading and waiting to release while I was writing Goodbye Port Alma. So just sort of switching hats. I think also it might just help that I'm retired. So a lot of writers, indie writers in particular, they're balancing their work and family with trying to write. And, so those are just different days for me. So it's just my son, and, he's grown up and has family of his own. And I'm retired as of June 2019. And so I just am able to, I don't know, it's just more relaxing. You can structure your day differently, knowing that, other than doing your things in your life and that you want to do, that you can write or you can edit or you can plan new stuff, and your time is your own.
Well, we have a question in the chat about your schedule. Like, how do you map out your day? Do you have a regular schedule of writing for so many hours? So, how about just walking us through a day in the life, a typical day in the life for you?
I'm going to do two answers, okay? Because in the first years, I'm going to say for at least 2 years, every single day I would write 3 capital letters in my calendar. A W for writing, B for business, and L for learning. So I really did for 2 years. I sort of transitioned from one full-time job into another full-time job. So every single day, I tried to put a check mark by each of those things. So I would write usually in the morning and try to get a few thousand words done or a few chapters done in the book. And then the learning was huge because I didn't know anything about what I was doing, about software or advertising or marketing. So I would listen to podcasts. I did buy 2 courses that were incredibly valuable. So I was working my way through the courses. So I think it was like a huge amount of organizing, but it was also really similar to my job that I had just stopped. So that wasn't something that was new to me. Same for you, I'm sure, and people who are listening, that to have a calendar that you were doing 3 things on a day. So that's what my day looked like then. So some writing, some learning, and then some trying to learn about the business side, and then trying to implement how to become a successful indie author. That was pretty big. In the present, though, I definitely still am committed to all those things, but they don't take up as much time because there's not as much new learning and there's not as much time needed for the business aspect because I know what I'm doing more or less now. And so it's much more relaxed. And so I definitely, a day now would look like it would definitely have a couple of hours of writing in it. I never miss walking the dog because consequences for me. And then I have now more of a to-do list. So instead of blocking out the time, I keep an eye on that and make sure that I get through what I need to in a timely way. But, it's interesting, like some of what we've talked about in terms of productivity, I'm actually going to start putting a note, like an author's note in the front of the books with a statement on AI because I do not use it. And as you pointed out, the most productive years were like 2020, though 19. So AI wasn't even invented then. Like I couldn't have used it even if I had been inclined to. And so my productivity is because I like writing every day. And I do. And so I do want to have a statement that I don't use generative AI. So certainly like a proofreading software is driven by AI, but it's not generating the story. So I don't use generative AI for writing. I don't use it for social media. I don't use it for my newsletter. Like anything that's written is written by me. And I just sort of feel like the way the world is right now, I want to have a statement like that in the front of the books. Because why would I use AI? I love writing. That's what I want to do every day. So I'm not interested in learning how to train a bot to write mystery stories. No, thank you.
I think that's a good idea. And I think probably just from what I'm hearing in the industry, with stories being stolen and or reproduced and the author, not getting credit and all that it's very, very good. Uh, oh, and Linda's being very complimentary. You are very good at the writing, and I
Thank
think that's
you.
proof positive. So, good. Okay, so we are getting close to the end of our time. I apologize. Because we didn't get to circle back to
That's
some of the
okay.
questions, but there is one I definitely want to ask you. Are there any cultural influences that shaped the world or the characters of your books?
Um, I would say definitely that I wasn't aware of this, so partly it's based on feedback. Like people will say, I absolutely love reading these books because they're set in Canada. And so it's not something that I was aware of. And I think because I grew up in a border city, Windsor being across the river from Detroit, I do sort of think of North America as like one audience,
Hmm.
as opposed to the UK or Europe or
Hmm.
Australia. But I have to say it's really not. Like I think people really do perceive a difference when they come to, Williamsport or Port Alma or Elk Ridge. There is a sense that it is a slightly different country, that you might feel familiar in, but that you would also be interested to learn a bit more about it. Although I have to say, in terms of Elk Ridge, I've only been to the American Southwest once or twice. Well, I was in, when you were in Jackson Hole, that's sort of what Elk Ridge looks like, where you see the ski hill that comes right down and you can see that from when you're in town. Whereas the Canadian towns that I based it on, Golden and Fernie, ski towns for sure, but they don't actually have that same visual. So there's a little bit of the American Mountain West area
Hmm.
in Elk Ridge. But yeah, having said that, like people comment all the time on the settings. And I don't know, I think for me, setting is as much a character as the humans in the story. And so I think, probably there is a sense of, yeah, this is part of Canada, as opposed to another part of North America.
Hmm. I do want to snicker because you said you have not spent a lot of time in the America Southwest, and then you mentioned Jackson Hole. And to me, that is American Northwest. So it took me
Oh,
a second. I was like, oh, she means because she's in Canada. So she
well,
came south. Yeah.
partly,
Yeah.
partly, I guess my mistake. So both
No, not a mistake. I love it. It's a
our
cultural thing.
destination really was the Four Corners. So in Arizona, New
Yeah.
Mexico, the Tony Hillerman and Anne Hillerman country for those mystery readers. That was our destination. And then, yes, we did also go further north. You're right. So my geography was a bit off, but it was because the whole trip was so wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, that does sound like a wonderful trip. I have not had the pleasure yet. All right.
Oh, you
So,
have to go.
as I should, but I'll also, this is going to sound bad. I'm waiting until I retire and then maybe go have
Yes,
a road trip adventure,
you
so.
should.
Yes. Okay. So, um, as we start to wrap up, there is another program that we have. Linda Foster is very familiar with this program, and it is called Murder by the Book. And we have it every Saturday at 10 o'clock Eastern. It's here on our Zoom channel. Why are you shaking your head, Lance? Did I say the wrong thing?
It's every first Saturday,
What did I say? Every
every
Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay. I said it wrong. I apologize. You're right.
That's okay.
Because we would be having it now if it was every Saturday, wouldn't we? Every first Saturday of the month, we get together here on Zoom and we talk about the books that we have read for the previous month. And what do you recommend? What'd you like about it? And it's a great way to grow your to be read pile. And so, Anne, we would like you to participate by sharing with us today a book or two that you have read recently. It doesn't even have to be recently, but a book that you recommend that you think readers, mystery genre readers would
Wow.
enjoy? Do you have one in mind?
Wow, that's so hard. Oh my goodness. Um, I guess I have to say my all-time favorite writer, totally inspiring. I'm sure everyone has heard of him. It's John Sanford.
Oh, yeah.
So he has I just love his voice. I love his characters. And I do reread those books, I'm sure. And then I mentioned Tony Hillerman and Anne Hillerman. Definitely like books that I return to. Um, and then I don't know, there's a couple of British writers, Simon McLeave, Joy Ellis, Robert Thorogood, of course. Anyway, there's so many out there, but I would say those are authors whose books I really try to keep up with, and I have no trouble rereading because they're so fascinating.
Yeah, you've hit on a few that I know are other favorites as well, but also, and telling us of some new ones to check out. So, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to our audience for joining us. I hope that you will check out Sisters in Crime Atlanta. If you already are not a member, please consider it. We do have our programming. Every other month, we have our meetings online, so don't have to be local to be a member and participate.
Right.
And then on the off month, we actually get together and have social time, a lunch in place of our meetings. So love to have you. We also have programs online. Check out our website, www.sistersincrimeatlanta, all spelled out, all one word.com. And hopefully we will see you here again.
Thank you so much, Dawn, and also Linda, and also everyone in the audience. It's been really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for inviting me.